What is going on, all of you amazing gamers out there in the world? I am Mega Am, so thank you for watching this YouTube video. Whether you are a new or returning viewer, I appreciate you stopping by. This is going to be a very controversial video. Please keep the comments civil if you decide to comment in there. Otherwise, I will block you or delete you, whatever. I am going to try to present this as factually as possible, maybe mention my perspective, but not try to like attack anything really. This video is talking about video game boycotts in general. Over the last like 5 years or so, we've had many instances of boycotts being called for all sorts of different reasons. The big one right now that is happening is actually boycotting Xbox specifically due to the reporting that Microsoft has been one of the most complicit tech companies in terms of the genocide in Gaza. With that whole thing going on, this video is going to be more of a PSA rather than like targeting anybody or making anybody feel guilty. That's not what I want to do here. That is not my goal. I just want to report on it and talk about all of the different things that have been happening and kind of my personal thoughts on the matter. So BDS, if you don't know, is Freedom, Justice, Equality. They are an established organization for decades now, have been an established organization who have called for different boycotts of different companies, especially recently in regards to all the conflict in Israel going on right now. And just like the 4th of April is just literally 3 weeks ago from this recording, they called for a boycott against Xbox, mainly because Microsoft is complicit in all the occupation, illegal occupation going on in Gaza and all of that. I'm just reporting facts here. But yeah, they are now considered a priority target by BDS. Now, what does this mean? They're calling for gamers to cancel Game Pass if you have it, to not buy games like Candy Crush, Minecraft, Call of Duty, or like purchase microtransactions in those games, and boycott all their products, including consoles, headsets, accessories, everything. And yeah, they're calling for this. Is their official website. This is what they're calling for to happen, and it's interesting because there's been a lot of different boycotts over the time. We're going to go through a few examples here. Boycotts are a weird thing because I think a lot of gamers see boycotts as like this no word, either dismissal or just like, no, like I'm not interested, this is bad. But it really, from my perspective, what it comes down to is choosing how you spend your money. Because some people, and I'm not trying to shame anybody, some people are okay with, buying these games, these products, because they enjoy gaming, even though the companies that are putting these things out are doing horrible things. And I get the idea of separate the art from the artist. Ignorance is bliss. I've heard all of those. I used to be, like years ago, I used to be one of those people, right? I didn't know any better what was going on in the world. I used to be one of those people that said, I'm just going to play my games because I like playing them, and I'm going to buy what I can with my own money that I want to. And it's only been in the last few years I've really been trying to pay more attention and be more conscious of my spending, not just in the gaming sector, but like everywhere. And I'm not saying that you have to do this. I'm just saying what I am doing personally. I'm personally going to be supporting this. I mean, it's not too difficult for me because, I have an Xbox, but, I don't have Game Pass. I haven't had Game Pass for like, 3 years? I was going to get Doom the Dark Ages next month. It's coming out in May. Not too long after this upload goes up. I'm not gonna get it anymore. I thought about it. Not only was I like less interested in the game already, but also just like, I don't know, this to me was like the call for me to be like, yeah, I'm not gonna get it. And to be honest, like, it's tough because, like, for example, they just came out with South of Midnight, which is being acclaimed for being like a very like pro black community game, and that's awesome. Like, that's great to see that representation out there. It just sucks that the publisher, I'm not gonna lie, they're a shitty corporation. They are a shitty corporation. A lot of these studios are. Sony, even Nintendo. Like, none of these companies are your friends. I always reiterate that like every once in a while with these videos. None of these gaming companies are your friends, but you can choose where you want to spend your money and where you don't. And personally, I'm choosing not to spend my money on Xbox right now. Now, a lot of people, especially gamers, are very dismissal of these boycotts. They'll say, oh, they don't work. They've never worked. They're huge corporations. They're going to make money anyways. And of course, they're going to make money, but they work. We have proof of that happening in gaming and not in gaming. There's been a bunch of boycotts. non-gaming one that comes to my mind. I was listening to the Aftermath podcast. Shout out to them. They mentioned the Sabra hummus company. If you've ever had hummus or had them, they were owned or had a lot of shares owned by an Israeli company, and it ended up not being profitable enough. People were boycotting it, and they sold their shares, and then they were taken off the list. Specifically on the BDS list. They had them originally. I forget how long ago this was, but that worked. You can choose where to spend your money. And here's my thing, right? Supporting a boycott, I think going into it with the state of mind of this is going to financially ruin the company is not the right perspective. I think that is my kind of outlook on it. It's not about trying to bankrupt a company. No one can single-handedly bankrupt a Xbox. Even a bunch of people doing it, it's not feasible, right? Like, these are huge tech companies with tons of backing from the government even. They're going to be fine. They're going to make it out, especially big companies like this. But it really comes down to how you choose to spend your money. Because you can choose to not buy into this. It's not a matter of not giving them the money. It's not a matter of, oh, they won't have my money. It's a matter of, I don't want to support this. You know, it's a matter of personal choice. And I get that some people don't really care. And I mean, whatever, you do you, man. Like I said, I'm not going to fully criticize you. I am going to be a little bit like, okay. It's interesting that you choose to be, I don't want to say ignorant's the right word, because like, just because you're supporting Xbox doesn't mean you support genocide, right? With your money, technically, might be pointing in that direction, but morally, not necessarily. There are plenty of gamers who don't support this kind of stuff. Most of them, I'm sure, don't support this stuff, right? But it really comes down to personal choice. I've become a little more conscious recently, and that's why I've been participating in this, you know? But obviously, if you really want to play Minecraft, if you really want to play Call of Duty, like, I'm not going to fully fault you for doing that, you know? And it's one thing if you've already bought an Xbox, you've already bought all this stuff, and, like, we didn't know. We didn't know any better prior to this reporting coming out just a few weeks ago as of this upload, right? Right. I'm not going to fault anybody for doing that, right? I don't know. It's a really tough situation to talk about because I don't want to fault anybody for that, but also it's good to be aware. And if you so choose, be conscious of how you spend your money and who you put your money towards. Personally, I don't want to support Xbox while this is happening. And to be honest, that might be forever. I don't know. I probably won't get the next Xbox. I don't know if I'll ever get any of their other games. I don't know. It really comes down to how this situation comes across. But it's not a great situation. I'm not a fan of this, and I personally just don't. Not buying Xbox products is not going to make an impact on this, because that is like absolute baseline of what you can do. Like, you can protest, you can do all this sorts of stuff to fight more against it. Boycotting is not going to bankrupt Xbox. But what it is going to do is it's going to allow me to have a little bit of peace of mind in terms of where I put my money. And that's just what I want to do, right? Some people don't feel the need to do that. And you know what? Whatever. You know, whatever. You do you. It's your money to choose how to spend, right? I do want to look at a few more examples of boycotts that have happened in the past, not necessarily succeeded. Case in point, the Hogwarts Legacy boycott from a couple years ago when the game originally came out. As most of you watching this video probably know, the author of Harry Potter, J.K. Rowling, is a huge transphobe, has very much spoken a lot against trans people before. There's a recent quote on Pedro Pascal calling her a loser, which was absolutely funny, calling her out. And like, it's one of those things where it's like, and to quote again the Aftermath podcast, go listen to them. They do some great work and write great articles online. In their wording, a lot of the difficulty with people and boycotts is nostalgia, right? Especially my generation, people love Harry Potter. Like, growing up, reading the books, watching the movies. I'm personally not one of those people who loves Harry Potter. It's like, the movies are okay. I enjoy them occasionally. But it's one of those things that people love a series like this, right? And it's really tough because you love the art, but you can hate the artist. J.K. Rowling is very much against trans people, and I personally do not support that. It's really annoying how I do not support J.K. Rowling's hatred of the trans community, I should say. I do not support that at all. Trans people are people, and they are allowed to exist and have rights. And there was a lot of backlash. A lot of people were calling for boycotting of this game. I mean, it's still sold. This was March 4th. This was shortly after the game came out. At the time, it had sold over 12 million copies. If we look at how much it has sold already, It sold a lot. 34 million as of March 2025, with a retail gross over $1 billion. So this game was extremely successful. And I've heard it's a fun game. People really like this game, but the fans especially. And it's tough because it's like, can you separate the art from the artists? It really comes down to the individual gamer, right? So obviously this boycott did not work. That is for sure. It clearly sold lots of money. It gave J.K. Rowling a lot of money as well. I'm sure it lined her pockets. It's all connected, right? She owns the IP. She is very much influencing it, and she profits off of this, you know? And it depends on if you personally are okay with that or not. Personally, I wouldn't be. Even if I was into... It would be a different situation if I was into Harry Potter. Like, a lot. Then it would be tough. Like, for me, I think, like, what if it came out, could be because I love Sonic. What if it came out that Sega was, I guess, for example, supporting genocide in Gaza, right? I would personally struggle with that. So I understand that struggle. I understand the struggle. I don't like the dismissal. A lot of people dismiss this and say, oh, it doesn't matter. Where my money goes doesn't matter. It does. It really does. And it comes down to if you care about that or not, you know? And it depends on how you want to spend your money. It's just conscious spending, you know what I mean? Video games are a luxury. They're not a necessity, you know? So that's just my take on it. Let's talk about another one here. Remember the Activision Blizzard scenario? Remember all the sexual harassment cases that came out about that? And Bobby Kotick, that absolute pig. Yeah, this was a Wired article. Oh, shout out, this was a Gamer article from a while ago. This was back in 2021. A lot of the employees walked out and were calling on fans, to boycott titles like World of Warcraft and Overwatch. I don't think they worked either, from what I can tell. Plenty of people still love those games, and it's tough. Like I said, it's tough because you love a specific game, and if you're one of those people who finds that the creators are pretty shitty, it's like you don't love it. You know what I mean? My take, honestly, is like, if you already bought the game and are playing the game, that's one thing, because it's like, okay, I spent my money on this. Now, after the fact, we find out that they're not great. It's like, okay, well, I own them still. As long as you're not continuing to give them profits, right? That's where I would be like, okay, like, I would understand, you know, if you feel guilty, but you don't want to contribute more profits, that's fine. You know what I mean? Some people are dismissal and won't. And like, I mean, whatever, you know, you do what you do. Like I said, that's why I'm trying to keep this a little more just general. I'm trying to like see all sides here, right? Because some people just really like these games, and for them it's hard to give it up. And I get that. I get it. I just, as someone who has become more conscious about their spending, it's tough to understand. That's all. You know, that's all. It's just tough for me to understand that. I get that people really like a lot of these games, but it is what it is. I don't know. It's tough. It's such a tough topic to discuss. Like I said, please keep it civil in the comments below. Otherwise, I'm literally deleting your comment. One that's really funny, and kind of an example of a boycott gone completely wrong. In fact, it was almost like a fake boycott, was the Bayonetta 3 situation. I don't know if anybody remembers this, but the original voice actor, Helena Taylor, called for a boycott on Bayonetta 3 because she was implying in several videos that Platinum Games wasn't offering her much money to voice Bayonetta again. And then, of course, we know that Jennifer Hale voiced her instead in Bayonetta 3 instead of Helena Taylor returning. And shout out to The Gamer for issuing, I'm sure other outlets did too, they issued an article saying they were wrong about the whole scandal, because then it came out that no, they were fine. Kamiya came out and said, what is she talking about? This is absolutely not real. We had proof. She was asking fans to boycott the game, which is crazy. Yeah. So completely because within the world of voice acting is a labyrinthian maze of pain. Yeah, voice acting is a whole can of worms here. She was only up for that to play Bayonetta. Most people thought that meant the entire game. But yeah, she was offered at least $15,000, possibly more, to voice the character. She turned it down and was then offered a smaller cameo for $4,000. So we then got context. So this was a boycott completely taken out of whack, and I do think it impacted the sales of the game. So not quite succeeded, but it's not really a case of a good boycott. It came down to someone with Helena Taylor's status calling fans to boycott, people jumping on board because, like, oh, that's the voice of Bayonetta, the original. They didn't get it back. We gotta boycott this because they weren't paying her enough money. No, turns out they did, and she turned it down because she wanted even more. So there's you gotta wait for context for stuff like this, right? And so that's a whole thing. And I love when Kamiya came out, it was like, stop. He just came out, I was like, well, what is going on? But see, a situation like this, you always want to make sure you have enough context before you decide how to spend your money, right? We didn't have enough context here. Plenty of people already decided not to buy the game. Then it came out, oh, wait a minute, it was fine. You know, whereas a situation like this with the Microsoft, bringing it back full circle before I end this video, this is just facts. You cannot deny that Microsoft has involvement in the doings of Israel and the illegal occupation of Gaza. Like, that is factual, right? We have the context for that. So based on that, that's when you can make your choice. And like I said, this comes down to a personal choice, right? It comes down to if you want to choose how to, like, be more conscious of how you spend your money. Because a lot of people aren't. And you know what? You do you, you know? I would hope that you would realize it someday, but you do you, the end of the day, right? I've come to those senses. I used to be someone like that. And, you know, I was a very ignorance is bliss kind of person. And I would just play my games. Now, I'm a little more aware. You know, I'm trying to read up on stuff, and I listen to podcasts, read articles about the different dealings of some of these companies. And I want to call it out because if you're like me and you want this world to be a better place, it's like, I just personally don't want to support this. I know me not buying these products of any of these companies, it's not going to overall harm them, right? They're still going to make a ton of money. We've seen that time and time again, unless it would have to be on a massive scale, like we've seen with some other companies outside of gaming. But here, it would take a massive scale of almost every gamer to not buy these products. That's what it'll come down to. And I don't think that's likely necessarily, unless it's like, I don't know, maybe Ubisoft because everybody hates them, but like, not everybody, that's a strong word. But like, it just comes down to if you decide you want to spend your money consciously and choose not to support this, right? If you don't support this kind of stuff and you want to decide not to, that's what I'm trying to do, you know? So I just really wanted to kind of make this video, put this out there, and, you know, maybe it could be a call to action for some of you. Maybe you've been looking for the inspiration to try to be more conscious of it, and here you go. And if not, sure, keep playing whatever games you want to play. You know what I mean? It's one of those things that's like, individual people do what they want. You do what you do. I don't know. That's really all I got to say about it. But with that, I don't want to make this video super duper long, so it's already getting a little long here. But that's going to do it for this video. I know, like I said, very controversial topic. Please keep it civil in the comments below. Otherwise, you're getting the boot. But if you do want to be civil in the comments below, let me know, you know, your thoughts on this situation. You know, are you going to support this boycott? Have you supported any other boycotts in gaming in the past? Let's keep it specific to gaming just because this is a gaming channel. You know, let me know your thoughts. I'm curious to know. But with that, thank you so much for watching. I will catch you all on the next video or live stream. And until then, keep on gaming. We'll see what happens.